Alright, so our next texture that we are going to look at is going to be this Amur Leopard fur. And I think we're all quite familiar with this idea of the circular spots on the leopard. But what we need to think about is what happens around that circular space. So we've got this vaguely circular medium tone here towards the centre of the spot, and then we've got these darker patches around. Some of these appear circular, some of them look like two circles that have been joined together, some of them are a bit more oval shaped, which means we can be quite loose with our shapes that we create. But I think the thing to recognise here is the marks and the tones. So we have very short, spiky, straight little lines to make up our texture here, and we have three very different separate tones. So obviously we've got the very, very dark spots, and we've got the medium spot in the middle that we've already spoke about, but then we've got this much lighter tone here, but they're all made up of these short, sharp, spiky little hairs. Okay, so we're not thinking flourishes this time. We're going to think of something very, very different to this one that we've just practiced here, and we're going to go for much shorter, spikier marks. Okay, so once again, I'll zoom in a little bit closer so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a vague sort of circular shape for the centre of my leopard spot, and it's going to be around about the size of a 10p piece. Okay, and then I'm going to go in some other areas and I'm going to sketch those in as well, trying to make sure I end up with about 3 or 4 in my box here. I maybe even might want to add half a one in down the bottom of my square there, and maybe half a one in up at the top of my square there, just to mix it up a bit. Okay, so once you've got those 10p piece sized vague circular shapes, then what we're going to do is we're going to add the black spots around it. Okay, so I am going to start here, and I'm going to make a sort of jelly bean shape for this black spot, and I'm going to include something that looks a little bit like that. And then for the next one, I'm going to make that a little bit more of an oval, and then this one a bit more circular, and then this one around here a little bit more circular too. Okay, so I'm varying the shape of each of those just to add that interest, because obviously a leopard can't change its spots, they say, because they have very distinctive patterns for each leopard. Okay, so I'm going to mix it up with each one, including different sizes and different shape spots, but each time you notice I'm putting 4 around the edge of that circular shape I've just drawn. So I'm going to go the same here. 1, 2, 3 and 4. On the half ones, I'm just going to put 2, so I'm going to put 1 there and 1 there, and then on my bottom one I'm going to put 1 overlapping the edge and then 1 going around the edge there. Okay, so you can see there I've got my basic leopard spots drawn out. Okay, now I have to start shading them in. Okay, so we said that these lines are going to be very, very different to our flourishes, and that's because they are. What we need to do is we need to keep our lines very straight. Okay, so I'm going to go in as we usually would do when we've been doing shading, and I'm going to make my darker tones first. Okay, and I am pushing down, but I am not flicking and curving out. I am keeping my line super straight. Okay, and I'm not staying within the circle that I've drew either. I'm making sure that I have these straight lines poking out at lots of random angles. Okay, because if you were to go in and you were just to shade your shape in, well, it wouldn't look like the texture, because you can see how those two look very, very different. Okay, you can see that this one, it looks spiky and pointy, where this one doesn't. All right, so we need to make sure that we are doing those straight little lines so that we do make it look spiky and pointy. Okay, and I'm going to go on to my next one, and I'm going to keep on going in that diagonal direction as well, just so it all links together, making sure that some of my lines point out at random angles just to give it that realistic textured effect. Then I'm going to go on and fill in each of those dark spots. And you can see it creates the appearance. This, at this stage, to me, looks a little bit like I'm drawing tufts of grass or something like that. Might be a useful way to describe it. So I'm going to fill that last dark one in with my sharp, pointy, straight lines. Okay, and then once I've got all of the dark parts of my spot, I can then start going in with the medium tone in the middle. So I am going to have to continue to make the same kind of mark, but to make sure that my tone is lighter in this middle section, I'm obviously going to push lighter with my pencil, but I'm also going to make sure that I'm not packing the lines as close together as I did in my darker tone spots. I'm going to space it out a little bit, but again, making sure some of my lines point out of the shape that I've drawn to make it look a little bit more realistic. Okay, and then once I've got that medium tone spot in the middle there, then what I need to do is I need to go around and I need to do the lighter part. Okay, so this is where I'm going to have to push really light with my pencil, but I'm also spacing those short little flicky straight lines out so that I'm creating that illusion of it being a lighter tone but still the same texture. So I'm getting a lot of space around it. Now I'm only going to do one spot here, but obviously you try and fill as much of your box as possible. Okay, so once you've got to the point where you have shaded in and done all of your spikes, you've added your tone, then what we're going to do is we're going to take our finger, and we're not going to push very hard when we do this at all, but we are going to go in and we're going to give our tone a gentle smudge. Okay, and you want to still be able to see the lines of the texture marks, but what you're doing here is you're just making sure is that where those gaps that we've left, they are still filled with a tone, so that we get a very definite, clear, lighter tone around the edge, medium tone in the middle, and then obviously these very, very dark spots. If you do find that you lose any details or your tones don't look different enough, feel free to go back in and make some more of those marks on top, but you are then just repeating the same process in each spot. Over to you.